I'm going to tear some atheists apart. Okay, I'm really sick of how ridiculous this debate is. The difference between a Satanist and an atheist is that a Satanist knows he's going down the wrong path. A Satanist knows he's choosing the left-hand path, the dark side. They know this. But the atheist is so ignorant to how ridiculous he sounds. Okay? So we're going to take a look at a clip that I found on YouTube. I'm going to play it here. I want you to watch this, and then I'm going to come back and tear it apart. I'm so over how ridiculous these people are. Let's check out the clip right here.
And he made them anyway, which means he made those people in order for them to go to hell. If God knows what's going to happen, if God knows all things, and then people sin and turn against him and all these things, then either he wants it to be that way or he's a moron and he just let it happen and was surprised that the thing that he knew was going to happen happened. And if he isn't stupid, then he's evil, because it means that he then made these people knowing that they were going to rebel against him, knowing that they were going to live in sin and die in sin, and he made them anyway, which means he made those people in order for them to go to hell.
All right, first and foremost, atheism in the Bible. Okay, now if you're watching this video, you obviously have some interest in the Bible. The Bible is the instruction manual to life on earth for human beings. With that said, let's go to the Bible to see what it has to say about atheism. All right, in Psalms 14:1 and 53:1, atheism is talked about, and here we go. Here we go. Quote, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God." The fool here is not necessarily lacking intelligence, but is characterized by moral foolishness and a disregard for divine law, acting as if God does not exist and will not hold them accountable. Okay, there it is, straight from God's mouth, straight from his book, that atheism is something that people fall into. It's a trap. It's an intellectual trap of ignorance and stupidity. And now what I want to do is kind of point out some of the things in this video that this guy said and then tear them apart. All right, here we go. Okay, so the biggest argument of this video is that somehow God is either a moron, as he said, or is possibly even evil. And the reason he would say this is because he's trying to use God as being all-powerful, omnipotent, and omniscient to say that if God knows people are going to sin and die and possibly go to hell, then he either wants it to be the case or, like he said, he's a moron. Okay? Now, if there were no Bible to reflect on, I suppose this argument could be entertained for more than 30 seconds. But we have to heed the Bible. That's why it exists. So let's look at God's all-powerfulness. I want to read some things here, okay? The apparent contradiction between divine omniscience, which is all-knowingness, and human free will is resolved in several ways, often by viewing God as existing outside of time, where past, present, and future are simultaneously known rather than known sequentially. Okay, now this is like the crux of the atheism argument, and I love this because the battle's already won. I'm just here to call it out for what it is. God is the immovable mover. He is the source from which everything flows. He is what existed before anything else existed. He had to create the things that exist. So therefore, if God created human beings that live on a planet that revolves around a sun and is governed by time, time, then doesn't that somehow imply, both logically and biblically, that God exists outside of time? Because you're not going to create time for human beings and also be governed by it yourself. God is neither created nor destroyed. He doesn't. There was no birth of God. There will be no death of God. God is just everything. God is the everything before everything existed. So the fact that God exists pre-time and he created time insinuates that he's not governed by time. Okay? Humanity gets free will as a result of original sin. And Satan is the Lord of this world, and we are all subject to the laws of physics and the simple biblical reality that we're all going to be tried and tested here. And if you want to read the good book and do what it says and realize the laws set within it are the laws of reality, then you're probably going to have a much better time than somebody who's choosing to go the dark route, or this middle lane here of atheism where it's like you think you're being all intellectually bright, but in reality, the book, the Bible itself, just destroys the argument altogether. So God is neither evil nor a moron. God simply created everything. He exists separate of that creation. He exists outside of time. Of course, God knows everything that's going to happen because there's nothing greater than God. It's like the argument against God is proving that God exists in the first place. Like, of course, the creator of everything is going to be able to know everything. But see, that's where people get it wrong. Okay, we have free will. You can do what you want. Hopefully you get the message of the good book so that you can make intelligent decisions. For those people that hang on to this weak, spineless BS of atheism, they're armchair intellectuals. It's just absolutely asinine. A little bit more on God being outside of time. A common idea is that God is not bound by time as humans are. From this timeless perspective, God doesn't foresee the future like a psychic would in a linear fashion, in a timeline type sequence, but rather he knows all moments of history simultaneously. But see, God doesn't want to just create robots. God is not a sadist. God does not want to create a bunch of beings that he's forcing to love and worship him. God wants to give you that ability to make your own decision. Quite the same way a parent wants their kid to learn and experience things on their own. When you're raising a kid, you need to be cautious, but you don't want to be overly cautious. You don't want to ruin them in that way. You want to give them the freedom to make their own mistakes, right? And the Bible, the instruction manual for life on earth, it has all the answers. And it's not my fault or God's fault that you people out there that subscribe to atheism and haven't given any of this other stuff a second thought, it's not our fault that you choose not to accept this reality. Foreknowledge versus determination. God's knowledge is seen as passively observing what will happen, not actively causing it to happen. It is analogous to watching a movie you've already seen, where the events are known but not determined by you, okay? You have to understand and accept that God is outside of time. There is nothing before God, and God will never be expired. God is everything. If you take away everything that's been created and look at what's left, it's just God. So of course, he's going to know the future. And he's not a moron and he's not evil. It's called free will, and if you people would just study the Bible, this whole ridiculous notion of there not being a God would just fade away into the ignorant oblivion that it belongs, okay? I think I've made my point. A little long-winded, but what are you going to do? If you're still here, hit that like button, and thanks for watching.